The Bucs finished number 17 on the composite and with an A for PFF. Started off with tackle/guard/center Graham Barton from Duke. You got edge Chris Braswell from Alabama, safety Tyke Smith from Georgia, wide receiver Jalen McMillan from Washington, running back Bucky Irving from Oregon, got him in the 4th, plus a couple other players, Devin Culp, the tight end out of Washington. Athletic option for pick 246. What are your thoughts on the Bucs draft?
Liked it. I thought it was pretty good. They were one of these teams that I think just got solid players all the way down the draft. Solid. Cogent. This is cogent draft strategy, Steve.
I think they might want Barton to play center.
Yeah.
Reportedly here. A lot of teams had various thoughts on what to do with Graham Barton.
Right. He was labeled as a 5 position player, which I always thought was a little bit crazy. I don't think he can play tackle in the NFL. But the good news is he goes to a team in Tampa Bay with needs on the offensive line, but not at tackle. They're set at left tackle. They're set at right tackle after last year. Their need is on the interior. So he could fit any of those spots, either guard spot or center. And yeah, center, it makes sense. I think that's where he should at least start with. But then even all the way down the draft, they just seem to get these solid players that don't necessarily blow you away, but are just good players that should help.
I think
Chris Braswell.
Yeah, the first 5 players I think are all contributing.
Yeah. Absolutely. And all of them have, some things that would sort of, there are reasons where they got drafted where they are. But like Jalen McMillan, the 3rd wide receiver on that Washington offense, goes at 92 overall in the 3rd round. Like, that's how crazy that group was.
Yeah.
I asked this question before. How many NFL teams had a better trio of wide receivers last year than Washington? And it wasn't 0, right? That trio, it was definitely better than at least one NFL wide receiver room. It might not have been many, but it was like, my point being, that was an NFL wide receiver trio, which, by the way, should probably also factor into the Michael Penix thing, right?
Yeah, and both of his tackles picked in the top 62 or so.
Yeah, that guy had 3 wide receivers and 2 tackles drafted in the first 3 rounds of the draft. It's at least relevant to what he did.
I'm torn on that because we've seen Joe Burrow, Tua, both be pretty good.
Yeah.
After years of maybe, like the USC quarterbacks may have been elevated. Like there's years of maybe you're too elevated by your guys. I mean, Joe Burrow thrown to 2 top 3 NFL receivers when he was in college, and that hasn't hurt him.
No, I'm not saying it does. I'm just saying at the very minimum, it should be brought up somewhere in the discussion.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
that's fair.
When the Falcons are having their conversations about Michael Penix Jr., if that never came up, it's an omission. You should at least, hey, somebody in the room, hey, these guys are pretty good around him. What do we think? And then talk it out, and then, okay, yeah, we're cool with it. But it should come up, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree.
But McMillan's really good. As a slot receiver, that guy has legitimate skills.
In that fit, now, Trey Palmer is probably listed as your 3. Like, there's a lot of guys competing for number 3 wide receiver spot for the Bucs. I think McMillan can be that guy, complement Mike Evans, Chris Godwin. Godwin has 1 year left on his contract. So I think when we talk about contributors with these top 5, there's a path to the field for all of these guys in year 1 or 2, I think, for the Bucs.
What I really like about Jalen McMillan is you can see a high level of thought going on during the play, like during the route. He understands not just, hey, I've got to get here, I've got to beat this guy, but he understands how best to make that happen. So the favorite thing he does is he's not the fastest guy in the world. He's also quite a big slot. He's sort of a bit like Tyler Boyd, but so a lot of times you run vertical post-type routes from the slot. If you're against the safety, it's kind of like a free big play, because those guys have no shot of covering that in-breaking route when you're one-on-one playing way off. You're just waiting for the receiver to make his move before you try and counter it. You generally have no shot anyway, but one way you really have no shot is if that guy makes you turn your hips to the wrong direction first, and McMillan does that every single time he runs one of those deep routes in the slot. Like, he could run by the guy. Like, he's not the fastest guy in the world, but you'll win anyway. He could just run the post route, cross the safety's face, and be open.
Post, baby.
But instead, he's going to make that guy turn to the outside, think he's running the seam or running a corner instead, and then immediately break back inside the post. And at that point, the safety's just done. Like, he shows that. That's my favorite element of it, but he shows that like throughout all of his route running and his ability to get open.
I know you liked Chris Braswell a little bit too. He was the other edge opposite Dallas Turner. They've got Joe Tryon-Shoyinka Yaya Diaby, Randy Gregory in there, but I think Braswell has a chance to, if compete for snaps right away, maybe start in 2025.
Yeah,
as that position group gets overturned,
he's just
good. Turned over a little bit.
Powerful edge rusher. I think he's good at everything except being like a situational speed rusher. You know what I mean? So if you have that guy, Joe Tryon-Shoyinka, perhaps. He's perfect. Like, he's a great complement. Him and Dallas Turner were really a phenomenal combination in terms of they really complemented each other's skill sets extremely well. So I would be trying to recreate that if I was Tampa Bay.
Yeah, again, Braswell I think is solid, and he just doesn't dominate as a pass rusher. You know, like when you go through and you watch, it's like there's not a whole lot of, he just, whips his guy and creates absolute havoc, but he's good at compressing the pocket, like an Alabama edge, right? Compress the pocket, knows how to disengage, and good pad level, and to the depth of the quarterback, does a lot of things just cogently. Tyke Smith, I think, competes for nickel snaps right away for Tampa Bay, and then Bucky Irving hated his workout, but just loved watching him play. He's got that shiftiness. I think take a little pressure off Rachaad White. I think they put a lot on Rachaad White last year. I think he can handle it, but Bucky Irving, just get him in space, and he will make things happen. Love his shiftiness and his quickness, and for the fourth round, love getting him there.
Yeah, he's exactly the type of player that I would immediately assume his workout is not going to be a huge problem. Like, I would kind of bank on Bucky Irving overcoming a crappy workout. It was very crappy when you consider he was small as well as not particularly athletic or explosive. Concerning, but the way he plays the game is the type of player that gets by regardless. So, and again, where they drafted him is good value.